I'm Scott McLean from transmusicmastery.com, and in this video I'm going to show you how to create a patch, the basic pitch riser effect sound. It sounds like this. Okay, so let me bring up the sound map for this patch. And this is a simple patch for implementing a basic pitch riser. It's a great starting point from which one can add more effects to make the patch more complex. So basically it's a single oscillator with a quad saw wave, and what makes the pitch riser effect is an envelope modulating the oscillator pitch, or on the case of Zebra 2, it's the tune parameter. And the settings for that envelope are maximum attack, so that the pitch rises over the duration of the envelope, and zero decay, sustain at 100. And as you'll see that in the video, that sustain value controls the final level that the pitch will sustain at. So you could have it go all the way up to the maximum and then drop down if you wanted, and that type of thing. And then a medium release so that it drops down a little bit at the end, or you could have zero release depending on how you wanted to set it up. Then the output of that flows into the amplifier with envelope 1 modulating the amplifier volume, and that's just using zero attack, a medium decay, sustain at 80%, medium release. Then to help give it some effects, we're going to add a delay. This is a stereo delay with a left 1/2 note sync time and a right 1/4 note, and lots of feedback and some cross feedback to get the sound bouncing around. And then it just goes into a reverb with approximately a 2-second reverb tail, just to add some ambience to the sound. Okay, not really going to hear that reverb in and of itself, it's just to help thicken the sound a little bit. The main work is done by the delay. And then finally that flows into the main output. Okay, let's build this patch. Okay, so I'm starting from the initialized patch, so let me just play a note. Okay, typical sound that we're used to. And the first thing I want to do is bring the level up some, so I'm going to bring the level up, the output level up to 100. Okay. And next what I want to do is go to the global section and set the tune, pitch it down 1 additional octave. So it's already down 1 octave, minus 12 semitones. We want to set that to minus 24 semitones because I want it to start at a lower octave. And right now I'm playing, I believe it's C3. Let me check that in a MIDI clip real quick, just so you know what note I'm hitting on the keyboard. Yeah, so I'm playing C3, but then that's being pitched down 2 octaves due to this global tune. Alright, so next we want to set the oscillator 1 voices to quad. And then now that we have multiple voices here, we can detune those, and I'm going to set the detune amount to 17. And you could go further if you wanted to. It really depends on what you're looking for. But for this patch, I just wanted a decent amount of detune, but not too much. Okay, and then now we can go ahead and put the pitch riser effect in by modulating this tune parameter. So I'll leave tune at 0 and then select a modulator. I'm going to select an ENV2. And so ENV2 is going to act on the oscillator pitch or tune parameter. And ENV2 amount, I'm going to set that to 48. Each one of these corresponds to a semitone, so I'll set it to 48, which corresponds to 4 octaves. So in this patch, the pitch will sweep up across 4 octaves. Next, what I want to do is come over to ENV2 and set the attack, decay, sustain accordingly. Now, if we leave attack at 0, it's going to quickly rise up to the maximum pitch value, which in this case would be 48. okay? And then over the decay time, drop down to the sustain value, which would adjust basically this somewhere, it'd be a pitch somewhere within that 48 semitone range. All right, so let me bring sustain all the way to 0, decay all the way to 0, and release all the way to 0. So right now it sounds like this. Okay, because all of these are at 0, it's not really affecting the tune or the pitch of oscillator 1. If I want to control where that final pitch is, where the pitch sweep ends, I can adjust the sustain right now. So I'm going to hold the note down, and I'm going to just bring sustain all the way up to its maximum level, just to demonstrate what I mean. So let's say I wanted the pitch to end right there. I could leave sustain there, and then that's where the pitch would end based on this envelope setting. Or if I wanted the pitch to end lower than that example, so let's say I just wanted to sweep from here up to there, okay? That would be an example. You'd set sustain there. So when you're modulating the pitch or tune, the sustain controls that final pitch that it's going to reach during the envelope. So I'm going to set it all the way to the max because we want this to go as high as possible. So it's going to end up here. Now, to have it take some time to reach that level and in effect get the pitch riser effect, we want to increase the attack time. All right. So I'm going to increase the attack time to about here, and we'll see how that sounds. Maybe make it a little longer. Now you hear how it's ending at a different pitch. That's because of this velocity scaling on the envelope module. So I'm just going to double click that. So now it should be consistent. Alright, and if I want it to take the maximum time, I'll just increase the attack all the way to 100. Alright, so that's the basic idea. And to make this take longer, I'm going to set the envelope to time to 16 seconds. Alright, and I want to increase the release to 46. And now I will, it's hard to tell what this is doing until we increase the release over here, so let me just bump this up. So now that I have a longer release on the amp envelope, if I bring this down, you'll hear what effect that has. So this controls how quickly the pitch returns from wherever it is when the note stops to its minimum value. But I want to have that set to 46 for this patch. I'm going to set the release on the amp envelope to 45 actually, about the same area. And then double click on velocity to set that to 0. Alright, so the next thing to do is just add some effects down here. So we're going to add delay and set the sync time left to 1/2, or sync 1 to 1/2. And I'm just going to offset these times so that they're not exact, just to make it more unpredictable. And by setting the ratio, I'm going to set the ratio to 76, ratio 1, and ratio 2, I'll set that to 120. Bring the mix up to 19, and then now we can bring the feedback to 35.5 and cross back to 31.5. And so now with this delay setting in place, and the delay effect, the patch sounds like this. And if you wanted more delay, just bring the mix up. So I could bring the mix up here so we hear the delay on the sync 1 and sync 2 more of as part of the patch. So let's try that. But when I originally programmed this patch, I have the mix set for 19, so I'm going to bring it back down to 19. And now the last thing to add is some reverb. I'm going to bring the dry up to 100 and the wet down to 0. Pretty much just using the default values for these settings. And I'll just bring the wet up to 15.5. And I'll disable the delay, and then I'll just play a note real quick and you can hear the reverb tail. It's just to add some ambience to the sound. And so bringing the delay back, this is the final version of the patch. And let me just go ahead and play it one more time. Okay, now from this point we can turn this into a faller instead of a riser by simply taking the attack, setting it to 0 so that it instantly starts at the maximum pitch level, setting sustain to 0 so that it will sustain at the 0 level after the decay stage, and then increasing the decay to 100 so that it takes the maximum time to drop from the maximum pitch level down to this 0 sustain level. So in effect it's going to start at plus 48 semitones and drop down to its starting level, which is 0 pitch. We're at whatever note you're playing on the keyboard, transposed by this global tune amount. So let me just give you that example. And that's really all there is to it. So it was just bringing the attack down to 0 so that it instantly starts at the high value, bringing the decay up to maximum so that it decays over a period of time, and then instead of having sustain at the max level, we bring the sustain down to the 0 level. The other thing that we can change is the timing, the length of time it takes for the riser or faller effect to occur, and we can do that here with this envelope setting. We could have it synced to the tempo so that it happens over 1 bar or 4 bars, for example, or even a quarter note. So in this case, or if I want to go back to the riser effect, that type of thing. Or we could go to 1 bar. Or 4 bars. And just to return it back to the original patch, we'll set that to 16 seconds. And that leaves us with this. And from here you can add filters and other effects and mix in noise and things like that to really liven up the sound and make it a little more sophisticated. Okay, that's it. I'll see you in the next video.